My name's Tony Catt. Welcome to our latest Catapult Wealth video. We thought this was a good time to come and talk to all our clients and colleagues about the Royal Commission. The Royal Commission has been in the press a lot for the last 6 weeks, and there are probably a lot of people that have a lot of concerns or issues around what is being discussed and has been in the press. So we thought we'd use this opportunity to bring in one of my other colleagues, John Purl from Affinitas Capital, and talk a little bit about what has been discussed and perhaps what some of the outcomes from the Royal Commission may be. For those that don't know, my role is Director and Financial Planner with Catapult Wealth, and I'll introduce John Purl. John, can you introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, thanks, Tony. Yeah, John Purl, and I head up Affinitas Capital, so another division of the Wealth offering here at Hub 39, and looking forward to fielding a few questions and throwing back a few your way as well.
Look forward to it. The Royal Commission has, it's thrown out a lot of issues that seemingly will have implications for a number of years, if not decades. What do you think are some of the big issues that have come out from the Royal Commission?
Yeah, look, I think what stands out for me is the client-centric concern. So by which I mean, I think it's sort of highlighting that over the journey of giving advice through the banks and other areas, there's may or may not have been some real focus on client information and client delivery of advice. So I think it's highlighting that the industry needs to change and tighten up some of the loose screws.
Do you think the Royal Commission was an important step in the evolution of the financial planning industry? Do you think this had to happen?
Yeah, absolutely. I really do. I guess my background is working through banking industry, and I've worked in investment banking and boutique, and it highlights 3 or 4 very different ways of giving advice. And I think in certain businesses, I think the structure kind of takes over, and the actual underlying advice element kind of got lost in it. So I'm glad to see it happen. I'm glad to see some of the issues get raised. Because for me, we talk a lot about what we do and how we interact with clients, and it's heavily relationship and client focused. And I think in certain places that's lost its way.
Do you think then, what are the the primary factors or types of firms that are going to, I guess, for want of a better term, flourish going forward then? What are some of the characteristics of firms going forward that are going to come out of this the other side well?
Yeah, look, I think it's something that we focus a lot on here, within your business and within mine, and that's just being super transparent. I think businesses that are transparent, that aren't trying to service 10,000 clients to a single advisor. So I think the businesses that will do well are the ones that are transparent, that are open, that are showing what's happening, aren't burying fees and charges in big documents, because transparency and open and honest with clients is paramount.
Yeah, I think the big issue and probably the big thing for me coming out of this was relationships. Yep. I think it's really important that you have a deep and a deeper understanding of your client circumstances and where they want to go and their goals and dreams. And ultimately, you can only do that with a certain number of clients. And I think that to have those relationships is important and will stop a lot of these issues going on. The other big thing for me was how, which needs to change, is how clients are charged. Yeah. I think that this fee for service mentality needs to get through more in the industry, and I think that will come out of the Royal Commission in due course. So
yeah, totally agree.
Do you think there's any negatives to come out of the Royal Commission for clients, or anything adverse that might come out of it?
In relation to impacts to clients, or advisors. Yeah, I think for advisors, the adverse thing to come out of this will be it'll push people out of the industry. We all know, and maybe we don't all know, but it is a compliance-driven industry, and that's because we're a new industry compared to something like legal or accounting, which has been around since the dark ages. So we are new and we are evolving, and I think as part of that we are heavily regulated, which can be positive and negative. But I think out of this, I think it'll really highlight that some people will say, well, it's going to make it difficult for me to give the advice that I want to give, and it's possibly making people change what they're either going to do and how they go about it. So I think from a client's perspective and an advisor's perspective, I think what we might see is people selling up businesses, exiting out of their firms, selling off client books, and possibly changing what they do for a career, which means as a client, if we look at some of the big firms, some of the big banks, there could be exits, and that means there's clients with no advisor attached, or a client who's attached to an advisor that now has to look after a huge volume. So I think it's a bit of an unknown what's going to happen, but to me that's one thing that does stand out, is that yes, I think it will force more transparency, which is great, but on the flip side I think it might also push a few people to change what they're doing.
Agreed. If there are any clients out there feeling uncomfortable or worried about their position at the moment, either whether they're dealing with another financial planner or anything at the moment, what would you recommend that they do?
Yeah, look, I think absolutely. First point of contact, I would say, would be if you've got a good relationship with your accountant, is have a conversation with them. There are obviously governing bodies, so that like an accountant has their CA and CPA, we have ours. We have the AFA and FPA. So you can certainly reach out to them because they're going to be well versed with what's happening in the industry. But go with people you've got a good relationship with, I think, as well. I mean, obviously, if you've got an advisor and you're feeling uneasy, sometimes it's not always the best, the easiest to go to that person straight away and saying, I don't like the way you're operating now that I've seen what's happening with the Royal Commission. But I think if you have a conversation with your accountant or even colleagues and just sort of start asking some questions, and I think that's a good thing that will come out of this, is people will now start asking questions.
Yeah, agree. Well, look, I think it's going to be an interesting few months. Our view is that the Royal Commission will put forward a number of different recommendations as an outcome from this, and the government and all the industry bodies will have to seriously look at those recommendations and hopefully, and I think it will have the outcome of making the whole industry more professional and a much better place for both advisors and for clients as well. So we look forward to the outcome of all of this. Thanks for joining us today, and thank you, John, for being with us.
Thanks, Tony.